All right, where does she live?
Stanton.
That's not too far.
Stanton.
She doing all this at a good.
How are you doing today? So any the kids here yet, or
Driving.
that's nice. They
25
people, but they drove together.
In separate.
Oh, they did. Because I guess Jen has to get back.
Stuff. This is watching how their stuff up to.
All right.
Oh, is that where she's moving to?
Yeah. Next.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 7 o'clock and welcome to the Lexington City Council meeting. Before I call the meeting to order, invite anyone that would like to speak this evening to sign up. And with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first item is a Pledge of Allegiance. If y'all will stand and join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Next item is consideration of the agenda. Maybe a small technicality, but under item 10.3, it reflects consideration of adoption for zoning amendment or zoning ordinance rather, and that we will not be considering that. Staff has asked for a work session and we will be talking about that, but is not an action item for tonight. And I'm not aware of any other changes. Are there any other items or issues?
Just with the minutes for the 5th, if I remember correctly, Vice Mayor Alexander adjourned us for the Moore River Service Authority meeting. Is that, am I remember correctly?
That is correct.
So just that one
change?
Yeah, one change.
Okay. When we get to the consideration of the minutes, Janie, you can make that adjustment. Thank you. With that, unless there's an objection, we will approve the agenda with the modification on 10.3 and move straight into proclamations. And acknowledging Arbor Day, which will be in 2024 in April, but being ahead of the curve. Thank you, Janie. Proclamation establishing April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in Lexington, Virginia. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, sequester carbon, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees planted along streams improve water quality and assist with flood control. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. Now, therefore, as mayor of Lexington in the state of Virginia, I do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the city of Lexington. And I urge all citizens to join in Arbor Day activities and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Under my hand in the seal of Lexington on this 21st day of December in the year of our Lord, 2023. So proclaim. Janie, thank you for providing and our continued efforts to be Tree City USA. And I think there's another designation I'm forgetting, but wonderful trees in our community, and encourage folks to protect them and support them and nurture them to be good, quiet neighbors, helping us in on the sunny days. Next item on the agenda, presentations, and I call on Ms. Alexander for an update on the Mountain Gateway Community College.
Thank you. So this isn't any dire news, but you do need to be informed. At the last Mountain Gateway Community College meeting held earlier this month, the local board received the results of our SACS review, and the SACS review is the accreditation process that schools go through. And this is the renewal of that. So they provided information from the Virginia Community College System Policy Manual, which indicates that no elected member of either the General Assembly or a local governing body board shall be eligible to serve on the college board. So that was surprising, of course. There are three of us currently serving on the Mountain Gateway Board currently who are affected by this finding: Lexington, Buena Vista, and Covington. Dr. Renoni reported that as a result of the finding, the board members affected, however, will be allowed to complete the current terms that we're all in. But going forward, the city councils and the boards of supervisors must appoint only from the community. And the terms for the jurisdictions, of course, are staggered like most boards, but the new term for the Lexington representative will be July 1, 2027. However, at that meeting, our Virginia state level board representative was in attendance and is taking that dilemma back to the state board and to the chancellor to determine if this policy can be changed. Once she heard the outcry from board members, the many advantages of having an elected official appointed to the local community colleges, as long as we recuse ourselves as appropriate. It will be a wait and see for now, but this policy is in effect for any upcoming new terms until we hear more. Now, this information was provided to the city manager, the mayor, and our city clerk to make sure that we update the spreadsheet of our boards and our terms and qualifications. Are there any questions?
When is the next opportunity for appointment to?
For here, it's July 1, 2027.
Very good. And presuming that you're elected for another term next year, there would be some conflict at that point.
The term that I have currently on their board is to 27. So I got the impression that it's okay until 27.
Right.
It's their term.
I'm just suggesting when you run for election and get elected next year.
I told them that if I did not run or if I did not get elected, there would be no problem in 2025.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Unless you all decide you want someone else to serve.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Any questions, Ms. Alexander? Terrific. Thank you for that update. Next item, consideration of minutes. With the notation that Nick pointed out on the December 5, is there any objection to approving the minutes as presented? They will stand approved. Thank you all. Next is citizens' remarks and comments. Don't think anyone has signed up, but is there anyone who would like to speak to council this evening? Hearing no one wanting to speak to council, we'll close the citizens' remarks and comments at 7:08 and go into unfinished business. Update on 201 North Randolph Street.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we all understand that 201 North Randolph Street has been taken down. There still is a little bit of debris, if you will, on the site. I think it's some construction stone that they want to salvage. At this juncture, there have been no complaints, and I intend to allow them some time to get that material out of there because it has value and hopefully they can use it elsewhere. So I think we've accomplished most of what we needed to accomplish, and I did let the owners know that we appreciate the work they've done, and it wasn't probably something they were fond of doing, but it's best for the community, and hope we can work with them soon as they redevelop the site. So that's where we stand, and unless there's other questions or concerns in the future, I think we could probably take this off the agenda. Any questions from council?
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have objection to this being removed from our future agendas? Very good. Thank you all. Next item, 10.2, appointment of candidate to Lexington City School Board. May recall at our last meeting, we interrogated three charming chaps and had three great folks to consider, and would welcome council's consideration.
I would move to approve Brendan Perry to the Lexington City School Board. Term ending June 30th, 2025.
Second,
Thank you. We have a first, thank you, Chuck. A second, Ms. Strawn, any discussion?
just one point is that is the end date, but effectively the end date will be at the end of the calendar year because I believe what we discussed last time previously is that this will be one of those positions that runs in November.
This position will be up for elected position
Right.
in 2024.
Right.
Right. So Brendan's term will end 12/31.
2024.
Thank you.
So amended.
No, you
No,
don't
no,
amend
no.
it. You don't amend it.
It just,
Fine.
just for clarity. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Strawn,
Aye.
Mr. Alligood.
Aye.
Mr. Betts.
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Alexander.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all very much, and I know Brendan will do a great job, and I know we'll remind the other candidates that there are other opportunities in the city to support and serve the city, and we'll see if we can't find slots for folks with their interest. Next item, 10.3 amendment to the zoning ordinance, and I'll call on the city manager for an update.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as you indicated, this obviously is not a item for consideration this evening, although that is the next step, I believe. City attorney, planning director, and myself have discussed this in detail. It is a somewhat complex item, as we've seen from some of the other questions and conversation that you've had in the past meetings. And next week, I will be looking at the calendar for January and hope to find a date when we can get together for a work session. Mr. Carroll and Mr. Glazer and I really believe that after we spent about an hour plus on the phone working through it, that we probably need to sit down together shoulder to shoulder so we can run you through the various possibilities and what some of the outcomes might be based on the routes you might choose to go down as far as how it intersects with the short-term rental ordinance and some of the other considerations. So that's what my intention is. I'll be back in town next Thursday and Friday, so expect to hear from me then on a date for January. Questions, thoughts?
Just one thought. I just want to bring it to your attention. I think it's important also to think about how this fits in with our residential zoning districts, including R1 and R2, because it has three unrelated people. Essentially can't live in more than three unrelated people can't live in a household. And we need to think about whether the accessory dwelling unit is part of the same household as the primary residence.
We'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Any other questions or comments? Brendan, saw you sneak in. We've already addressed the school board appointment, and thank you for your service beginning January 1. Want to give an acceptance speech? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Terrific. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Next time on the agenda, boards and commissions, Blue Ridge Resource Authority, Mr. Smith.
No report.
Main Street Lexington, Mr. Smith.
I just wanted to pass along the winners of the 2023 Christmas parade. Best band was the Rockbridge County High School Marching Wildcats. Best float was Williams Brothers Tree and Lawn Service. Best vehicle was Heritage Woodwork. Best performance was by Boxerwood. Best equestrian was the National Barrel Horse Association, and best representation of the Home for the Holidays theme was Curly and Rockbridge Community Hospital. Congratulations to them.
Very good. And I anticipate there's a significant amount of activity planned for New Year's Eve at downtown Lexington. The Gin, Patton Room, Southern End, Haywoods.
Close the street,
Come one, come all. Very good.
ball drop.
Excellent. Planning Commission, Ms. Strawn.
Planning Commission met last Thursday, December 14th, and we discussed two applications. One was a certificate of appropriateness for exterior improvements at 449 and 453 East Nelson Street, new signage at 449 East Nelson Street, owned by James Larner, and that's where the pack and mail is. And the Planning Commission requested an additional drawing to verify the paint scheme and the signage placement. So that'll come back at our next meeting. And we are not meeting this month, so that'll be in January. We're not meeting the week after next
Next
week.
week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this month is going by fast. And then we had an application by Hugh Latimer of Washington and Lee for approval of a conditional use permit to allow a student health center to be located on East Denny Circle on a portion of the 103-acre parcel owned by Washington and Lee University. And the CUP was unanimously approved 4-0 by Planning Commission. It was 4-0 because 3 of us recused ourselves. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, ma'am. Worth noting that the recusal will apply to city council members as well when that comes to the full council. So if you are employed or have a spouse that's employed by Washington Lee, that would apply. Regional Tourism Board, Mr. Betts.
No report.
No report from RARA that I'm aware of. Threshold, Ms. Alexander.
No report.
Memorial Service Authority, Mr. Alligood.
I do have a report.
Terrific.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The MSA board met last week, and one of the things that Mr. Smith had asked earlier was the relationship between raw water and the wastewater. And I said I didn't think there was much of one. As it turns out, there is one. It's a rule of thumb, and the rule of thumb is 75%. So whatever water goes from the raw water plant out in the system, the numbers for what ends up back at the wastewater is 75% of that. So that's the rule of thumb that's used for that. And
Barring any I.
right, that doesn't include I&I.
Thank you.
And during rain events, of course, that all changes, but it's getting better. Additionally, the MSA is in line for receiving a $350,000 principal forgiveness, which is good, for the study that will detail the solids handling issues that exist. And one of the big issues now is, of course, the PFAS and how much is in the system. And so this will pay for the system testing, and the handling equipment study will be included in this $350,000 principal forgiveness. And so this is needed to set the parameters for the engineering work that will follow in there. So we need this information, and it looks like the price is right for getting this study. The other major item has to do with the $3 million offer from the FCAP, that's the Virginia Department of Health funding that I'd mentioned a long time ago. And we haven't officially received that yet because the way the money will be acquired, it'll be municipal bonds, and it'll go through the state, and whatever the rate is that's established at the time that the bonds are put on the market will be determined. But we do know that the rate is guaranteed to be 1% less than the market rate. So we have that. And if we If the MSA closes the loan within 12 months, then we get an additional 0.2% reduction off of that. And so, anything is good. And then the market rate's going to be based on the calculation that the VRA sets when they go out into the market to borrow the money. And these happen to be the same terms for the two other offers that totals the 12 million that you've heard me mention previously. So it still doesn't go towards the 90 million significantly, but it's a big step to have the 12 million plus this additional 3. So that's the main thing for the MSA report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from Mr. Alligood?
Do you all have an expected time frame that those bonds are going to go on the market yet, or is it still to be determined
This year.
this year?
So
2024.
2024, right. And I don't know when the date is set for those to hit the market in there, but the paperwork's in order. And so it's a matter of scheduling now, I think is the way in there. And so the preliminary engineering reports for the other aspects of the project are in progress right now, and they haven't been finished yet nor reviewed. And so that's still happening. And so we still have this large expenditure facing us. And so this is beginning to approach it. I've asked for the report that details the timetable for the wastewater treatment expenditures. And again, the way the raw water expenditures were detailed was on a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan where certain things will be done in the first 5 and then the next 5 and next 5. And the same style is for the wastewater plant is what we plan to do again, to stretch out the things as much as we can and prioritize the most important things earlier. And, the big thing is fixing the place, the stuff that's critical, get that stuff done right now. And part of that study that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago for the study for the solids handling, that'll help determine how the expenditures will go for the wastewater as well. Because currently the solids are being handled in large part by application on fields, just application. And then we have equipment very similar to what dairy farmers use to spread the manure from the dairy cows on their fields, is the same technique that's being used by the MSA on the fields that it has contracts to spread with right now. And so one of the determinations is are we going to continue with the liquid waste disposal or are we going to change over to a dried cake system that can still be applied, but it won't be applied in the same way in there. And so that question's out there. It hasn't been answered. And hopefully the engineering reports after this data comes back for the $300,000 study that we're getting principal forgiveness for, will be better able to answer that question. And so these are things that are outstanding that will determine the course of what we're going to do. So, end of report.
Thanks.
Does that help?
It does. The reason why I was asking, I didn't know if y'all were trying to wait to see if rates drop or anything from when you issued the bonds, since, I was just curious if you had a system in place for specifically when you were going to put the bonds on the market.
No. And, I would hope that logic would say if it looks like the things are trending downward, we'd wait as long as we could to take advantage of it. Because, overall, multi-millions of dollars, 1% is a lot of money, right? Change it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Alligood. For my report, have just a couple of items. One, city manager may touch on this also in his report, but continuing to make progress on the Department of Social Services site. As you remember, Lexington's the lead on that and gotten additional information on the proposed build out there and the parties that'll be involved. So that's continuing to progress, and there'll certainly be more in the new year. It was a question was raised, relatively speaking, as to where we were in regards as follow-up from the presentation that we had for the dog park presentation at our work session. And what I anticipate is that sometime in January, more than likely, we'll add dog park public hearing to receive public input on that location and the prospects, to see if it's something that council wants to put in the CIP and have staff pursue any further. I think that talking with staff, that was the consensus for the next a next step, or what council had indicated at the last meeting. Next, I want to provide an update on the search for Lexington's next city manager. Our initial efforts did not produce the desired outcome, and the search is paused for the holidays. The city council will re-advertise the city manager position after the first of the year to seek a strong candidate to be our next city manager. Baker Tilly remains under contract to support council with this effort. Additionally, Jim, and specifically with Deb's agreement, has postponed his retirement and will continue to serve Lexington. And I anticipate city council will need to update the contract with Jim in January, and we'll be bringing forth the details of that contract in January for your consideration. And that is my report, and welcome any questions.
When do you anticipate the public hearing for the dog park?
In January is my preference. I'm not sure if it'll be the first or the second meeting, but would prefer to have it in January. Okay. And if no questions, I'll turn over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to update you on a number of items here, one being our housing initiatives. And unfortunately, I have something negative to share. Olivia Wright with the Shenandoah Valley Planning District Commission, who's been the lead on a couple of the initiatives we have here, the regional housing study, plus our grant and our local housing evaluation analysis, is leaving the PDC as of February 1st. Of course, the PDC has or will appoint another staff member to take up for Ms. Wright, but and luckily the grant that we have and that process is a pretty simple one, so it's not going to have a great impact on us. We have already submitted the initial budget for that grant. And really it comes down to then hiring a consultant and looking at the results of that grant and see how we use it down the road. But we're losing a good person who's been very, very helpful on this topic. Just as an FYI, she's staying in the region because she's going to go to the Shenandoah Valley Partnership, our regional economic development agency. So moving from one regional agency to another, and we'll still see her around apparently. Another item from the PDC, the recompete grant application that we put in, or what they put in on behalf of Lexington, BV, and Rockbridge County, was not awarded to us. Only 22 of 565 applications were funded nationwide. This grant was so that communities could focus on education, training, and other resources to develop better jobs in the community. And again, we were not selected for funding of that grant. I want to compliment our city clerk, Janie Hostetter, and city staff for donating and collecting over 130 items of food and other vital needs for RARA to hand out over the holidays. And each year, Janie diligently reminds staff of how each of us can make a difference in the community by just giving a little bit this time of year. She does a good job with this. As the mayor mentioned, a number of us here locally, myself and DSS staff, met with Thompson and Litton, the architects who are designing the new regional DSS building. And at this juncture, they were able to share with us the initial footprint of the building on the site and the proposed floor plan and space use of the building. And going forward, the the DSS will continue to work with Thompson and Litton to staff to refine the plan and prepare for bidding in the immediate months to come. So we do hope that in the late winter, early spring, that those plans will be ready to go to bid. So we are making progress. Pretty satisfactory at this time. I will say, however, that the lease for DSS will expire before we're able to get this building finished. So DSS is looking at where do they go from here, having conversations with the current landlord, and obviously we'll have to see how that resolves itself. But all seems to me the water's smooth at this time. So no disasters looming yet. Some updates from the police department. Further conversation and a meeting have occurred with the VMI representatives regarding parking concerns in the Diamond Hill area. The department accreditation manager assisted the Danville department as they underwent their Virginia Law Enforcement Agency assessment. The important thing about that is that we go through that process as well. And since we've had somebody there observing the process, we know how that's going to turn out when it's our turn, and we're better prepared then. So different agencies will assist each other basically because it benefits us to have the knowledge of what they were looking at, these agencies, accrediting agencies, when they come to see us. So good training exercise. Chief Green and department staff met with the organizers for the Sons of Confederate Veterans to plan their upcoming annual parade next month. Department staff conducted 33.5 hours of foot patrols throughout the city last week. Chief Green and Lieutenant Connery met with the Washington Lee Public Safety Director and traffic engineer to discuss parking and traffic concerns on West Washington Street. Student loading, unloading, and double parking have created frequent traffic concerns, and both parties are engaged in exploring solutions to this concern. I think we have a positive effort there, and we will make some progress to be sure that the street functions as well as possible when those students are coming and going with their parents, and it might create a little congestion, and just make sure that we can minimize that as much as possible in the future. I think we might all recall that a submission was made to the Department of Historic Resources for a new marker commemorating the Green Book, which was the traveler's guide for Black motorists during segregation. And that memorial has been fabricated. It'll be ready to be installed soon. The city staff will be working with the Historic Lexington Foundation, other interested individuals, to determine a suitable location for that new marker. Some updates from the fire department, and frankly, they've been very, very busy, but nothing of note as far as incidents or issues that might grab your attention. I will say, however, that Chief Dickerson has been quite busy. He's met with the Regional Fire and Rescue Subcommittee meeting, the Regional Fire and Rescue Association meeting, and the Regional Communications Center Board. And the important thing about that, other than the fact that we all get involved in a lot of meetings, is there's a lot of coordination involved in activities such as fire and rescue. And it shows when our representatives, such as the chief and his staff, are meeting with our other regional partners, coordinating their operations, getting on the same page, and how we serve the entire community. So it's just one, again, example of how much is involved and how often maybe we meet as staff with our co-partners in the region. So, as I noted earlier, I'll be out of town tomorrow, back next Thursday, going to Michigan to visit Deb's family and my own family. I wish you, of course, a Merry Christmas, and want to say thank you to all of you for what you've done across during this year, providing leadership and direction to staff and we all really appreciate that. I know it's a task for all of you from time to time, and we enjoy the fact that we can work with you and the leadership you provide. For those who are concerned about where we are in this period of time, today is the day with the least amount of sunlight in the year, so it all gets better from here on.
Brighter days ahead.
As a reminder, yes. That's all I have, unless there's questions from City Council. Yes.
I have a question. Well, first of all, Merry Christmas to you too. I hope you have a wonderful break. On the DSS building, the current design, it's just for social services, but then there's room on the property to add other agencies if that ever occurs in the future. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay,
It's just for DSS, and we're going to try and maximize that site and make sure the footprint of this current building does allow for as much expansion capability as possible.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Remind me what the current cost estimate for that is.
I'll have to
If you
look.
don't,
My apologies. I don't have it in.
I don't have it either. That's what
I
I didn't want to put you on the spot. Yeah.
I want to say it's in the $12 to $13 million range, but I'm not positive.
Very good. Before we go to the city attorney, when Jim mentioned Olivia's departure, I can't remember if I shared with you all or not, but Bonnie Riedesel, who's been heading up the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission for the past 15 years, has announced her retirement. And the executive committee will be initiating a search the first week of January for her replacement. And lots of changes going on at the PDC, but lots of good staff up there as well. City attorney.
Mr. Mayor, nothing for me this evening, no report. I appreciate the indulgence of allowing me to not be in attendance at the last meeting. I know you were in good hands with Mr. Lockaby, and I do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for the attorney? Terrific. Hearing none. Want to extend a big thank you to staff. And on behalf of all of council, extend a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of city staff. I hope you'll carry that back. We appreciate the leaves that get picked up, the trash that gets collected, the signs that get placed, the homes that are protected, and all the good work that all of the team that is Lexington City together. And with that, unless there's anything else, I will invite Mayor Elrod to Mayor Elrod. Not sure where that came from. It's a blast from the past.
It is.
Vice Mayor Alexander to read us into closed session. And I don't anticipate that we'll be taking any action once we come out of closed session.
Okay. I move that the city council of the city of Lexington convene in closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1 for the purpose of discussing the performance of city department heads. Virginia Code 2.2-3711A29 for the purpose of discussing the award of a public contract that will assist with evaluating and improving the performance of city department heads, where the contract will involve expenditure of public funds and discussion in open session would adversely affect the city's bargaining position or negotiating strategy. And Virginia Code 2.2-3711A8 for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel employed by city council regarding the specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alligood. Roll call vote, Ms. Strawn,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Betts.
Aye.
Mr. Alligood.
Aye.
And I vote aye, and I will check with the mayor here in just a second.
Aye.